So hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm in home time and I'm gonna go back tomorrow, go back to work. But before I go back to work, I wanted to make this video. I have some extra time right now, so when I'm on the road, it's very hard to make videos now since I'm training and I'm always moving, and I don't like to put my attention away from my students and the driving and all of that. So I like to have my focus on that. But winter time, it's coming, and I know there's gonna be a lot of new solo drivers coming up to Swift, starting during the winter. So I wanna go ahead and give you guys some pointers for those new drivers who are gonna start during the winter month, and how to stay safe, how to, make sure that you make it home safely, especially for the holidays and all of that. Remember that winter months are the most, unsafe month because of the snow, the weather, low visibility, a lot of stuff, that it's involved with, winter driving and all that. But I want to go ahead and give you some pointers so that, you're better off. I want to go ahead and get started right away so that I don't waste your time, and, let's learn some safety tips for winter driving. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about, it's your equipment. I know it's obvious, the equipment has to be working and running properly. Make sure that your truck, when you get your truck, make sure you fully inspect all of it. Your tires, make sure that they are either new or in very good conditions. Make sure that it's not too worn from any of the areas. Check all the circumference of your tires. Make sure they're all good, that you don't have any they're not wore off, because if they are and you're driving through snow, slippery roads and all of that, it's very dangerous, so you have to make sure that all your tires are good, up and running, and that also includes the ones from your trailer. If you drive for Swift, obviously you're going to be hopping from trailer to trailer to trailer, and inspecting your equipment and making sure that the tires are good to go. It's one of the most important things, because remember, if you don't have good tires, you don't have good friction. If you don't have friction, you're gonna slide, slip, lose your brakes and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that all your tires are in good working conditions. If they're not new, if they're not even, it's not safe for you, because there will be unevenness on the road, and you want to make sure you are completely even when you're driving on the road, wet roads, slippery roads, and all that. So make sure you check your equipment for that. Another thing you want to make sure you're checking, it's your liquids. Your power steering reservoir should be good, full, no leaks, all of that. Your coolant has to be good all the time. Carry extras of that. Make sure that you have, enough engine oil, that it's always good, no leaks on any of the parts. Make sure your diesel and DEF, everything, all the lines are up and working properly. Make sure you always carry antifreeze for, in case you go to those states that it's very cold, or, it's, on the 15 degrees, 10 degrees. You want to make sure you carry extra antifreeze to make sure that you put it on the diesel, so that you don't wake up on a dead end engine, and you want to make sure that it's good and running. So make sure that you carry at least 2 bottles of those. Make sure you have extra windshield wiper fluid, because when it snows a lot, you will have to be using a lot of your windshield wiper fluid, and also don't forget to add some alcohol so that it doesn't freeze up. Don't use too much, just a little bit does the magic. And make sure you have extras of those, because you'll run out of those a lot. I've been driving 2 winters, and this is gonna be my 3rd winter with Swift, and it's scary to start driving. It's scary to start solo driving, and going through a lot of the experiences alone. But that's how you learn. But just make sure you're careful. Make sure that if you go to one of the terminals, they usually have like the staging area for how to chain up. And one of the pointers I will give you, make sure to check all of your chains. If you have a hammer, kind of like hit them with a hammer, because usually when they put the chains to the truck, doesn't matter which truck you're gonna get, they should have the chains and everything, they should be good. But sometimes they put some of the old chains, and sometimes they've been used, so they've been there for months, so they could tend to get very, like, you just hit it with a hammer and they'll break easily. So you would be able to notice it because of the saw. I don't know exactly, but yeah, make sure you check them out. Make sure you expand all of them, check all of them individually. Don't go out on the road with like just 2-3 pairs of good working chains, and then the other ones are bad. Make sure you check. You should have 6 singles and 2 doubles. The Donner Path, for example, that one, there are gonna be some times where double sides are gonna be required, double chains are gonna be required. So you wanna make sure you have them there and all of that. But in all honesty, based on my personal opinion, make sure you download Quick Maps. That app is very helpful, especially when you're on the California area, like Donner Path, on the 395, the 395, the 6, and all of that. You could see areas that it's, where there's a heavy snow, chain control, and all of that. If you download Quick Maps, it's very nice. It's very useful, because then you're able to see when chain control is up, when chain control is over, and all of that, and it's very useful. But make sure that you do check all of your chains before you head on the road. Make sure you even if you're at the terminal, at any of the terminals or the truck stop, practice putting them on. Even if it's on flat surface, obviously when there's snow and all of that, it's harder and everything, but you still have to try before you head to the roads where there's ice, rain, cold, and all that stuff. Make sure you get good, and by good I mean excellent waterproof gloves, because you don't want to make the mistake to take gloves that you think they're waterproof and then end up seeing that they're not. It is not fun to chain up with no gloves or with wet gloves, because it gets cold. It's very cold out there, so you want to make sure you have good work gloves that are waterproof. I still have some scarring from my first time I actually chained up with I thought the gloves I had were waterproof. They weren't, but that's how you learn. But don't make the mistake. Make sure that you get actual regular gloves too. Not regular gloves, but like latex gloves would work. Now that I figure that I've bought a lot of different glove pairs that are actually supposedly waterproof. I've bought them, but the problem is that they always have like little holes and stuff, and water still is able to get through. And once some water is able to get through, trust me, you're gonna be working on wet hands, and it's terrible to put chains like that. So what I do is I buy latex gloves, and I put them on first, and then I put the other gloves on top, and they're very flexible. And make sure that if you do buy latex gloves, let's say you're like a large size, get like an extra large instead, so that you're very so your hands are very your fingers are flexing, because when you're putting the chains, you need to be doing maneuvers. You're gonna need to be hooking up the hooks and whatever, so you are gonna need to have a lot of flexibility on your hands. Make sure that when it's winter months, like I'm one of the type of drivers that I prefer driving night times more so that I do like to drive during the daytime. I feel that I'm more awake when I drive night times. That's just the way I am. But when it comes to winter and safety, then if you have to choose, I would tell you every single day, try to start driving. I know it's hard to find parking spots and all of that, but the safest time to drive, it's anything between 8 a.m. to let's say 4, 5, 6, 7 p.m. Anything later than when it's dark to 6 a.m. there's a lot of heavy snow, rain, slippery roads. They haven't, the first month, I will never forget that it was my first time that I had to chain up. I was all the way in Montana, and I did not know how things worked, but I learned it the hard way that not every state it's clearing up the roads every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes, every hour. No, they don't. Some states they let it snow throughout the night, or maybe they clear it up once in the entire 12-hour period, and then they start clearing them up around clearing up the and then the snow plows start to clean up the roads anywhere between let's say 5 a.m., 6 a.m. to be more specific, 6, 7, and then 8. It's when the roads are up and running nicely again. I had this load. It was the same one going to Montana, and I just remember I didn't know how the process. I mean, I lived in California my entire life, more specifically LA, so I never seen snow in my life, and when I came to this states, I didn't know the process that, how they, clear up the roads and all of that. And then I came to find out that they, some states clear up the roads like, like around 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then they clear it up, and then, and they go so on and so forth around the day. But when it's nighttime, it's like sometimes they maybe do it once or twice throughout the nighttime. So like starting to drive at 4 a.m., you might have to chain up because the roads are very icy and all of that. They have to clear them up. And my first trip to Montana, very icy. I think it was like my third week with Swift or something like that. And I remember they sent me up, they even rerouted me through Portland, and I can't remember anymore. But they reroute me and everything. But even then, I drove the entire day, and I stayed at it Loves. I got there at the Loves like around 5 p.m. So I was ready to start. I was gonna be ready to start driving the next day at 3 a.m. And I was like, okay, I'm still gonna have a good amount of time to make it to the appointment and everything, because I was excited. I just wanted to make it to my delivery and everything. And then so I start driving 3 a.m. Who does that, And obviously the Loves was clear because they kept clearing it up and all that. And it had been snowing a lot, throughout the, I had to stop early that day because it was snowing pretty bad, and I just didn't want to keep going. I just didn't feel good. And being my first week, so I was like, just stop and just wait. But then it turns out that, okay, I wake up 3 a.m., was ready, by 3:30, I start taking off. I start driving in, and I start seeing the road where I started. They were clear and everything, because it was like more in, still like to like city and stuff. So it was still clear. But then when I started driving in and deep, I was like probably like an hour, 40 miles, like an hour away. And then I started seeing chain signs on and all of that. And then the roads were still clear, so I still kept going and everything. And then I drove like maybe another 10 miles. And then I started seeing trucks pulled over, chaining up and all of that. Keep in mind, I had never chained up, and none of my mentors ever taught me how to chain up. So I just went like, blindfolded pretty much. I didn't know how to chain up whatsoever. But I go in, I start chaining up, and the first worst thing that I did, my so-called waterproof gloves that I thought they were waterproof, they weren't. So you could only imagine how that turned out. So I ended up, I took the gloves away and I started chaining up just how I could. It took me really like 2 hours to chain up, which it shouldn't have taken that long. And as a matter of fact, I shouldn't have left that Loves. Instead, I should have waited till like 6 a.m. to continue and just send a macro 22. I was not even gonna get in trouble. I don't know, I just guess I didn't think things straight. And I was just more like, I just want to keep driving because I just wanted to make it to the delivery. I was like 4 hours away, and I just wanted to make it, I guess, to the appointment. But it would have been easier for me, in all honesty, to stay at that Love, send a macro 22 instead of chaining up and going through all of that struggle. But I didn't. I learned how to chain up from that day on. I knew how to chain up, but trust me, by the time I was done chaining up, so I took off from the Loves like around 3:30, like closer to 4 a.m. I started driving an hour in. I started chaining like around 5 a.m. around there. I didn't know that right there they start clearing up the roads at 6 a.m. So it was 6:30. I was still chaining up and everything because I hadn't finished. Finally, I'm done chaining up. It's already like 6:45 or something like that, or around there. And I just hear some truck drivers, chain control is up, you don't have to chain up anymore. And I'm like, and I still wanted to drive with them because I wanted to have that experience of how like it felt like driving with chains on and all of that. But I had been chaining up for so long that I was tired. I was like, it was the worst nightmare ever. I took the chains off again. I take off and everything. I didn't realize when I drove, I guess something got stuck on one of my tires, and I didn't even realize it I don't know. But the point is that after that, I had a I had a bad blowout, and I think it had to do with the how bad I chained up probably. And the moment when I took him off, I was so tired that probably didn't even notice it. Or I'm not sure. And but what I want to say is that sometimes you have to do what's safer, and don't rush yourself during winter months. It's one of the things, if you're gonna be late for delivery because of winter and all of that, just you're not gonna get penalized. It's bad weather, there's no, it's rain and all of that. If you don't feel safe driving, and plus you're a new driver, just wait. Just wait till like the roads are clear, till you have good visibility, because that's another one. It starts, a lot of states get very foggy, like to the point where you can't see the car in front of you. Like it gets really bad, and when it gets to that point, just wait till the roads start to clear up. I've done a lot of dumb, I've made a lot of dumb choices as I was a new driver, and I've been perfecting myself since then. From that bad experience, I've never made the same mistake. Like Donner Path, when I know that I'm gonna drive there and it's snowing months, what I do is, like, let's say if I'm going west, I'll drive from wherever I'm at, and I'll stay at Applegate's, the first rest area. Then I'll open my I'll open my quick maps. I'll open it up and see if chain control is still up or not, and then I see it. If it's still on, I'll continue sleeping or watching something, whatever's, and then I'll wait. And if it's, once the chain control is up or over, then I'll start driving and make it past Donner Pass, because it does not make sense to be driving on chained up, going 30, 25 miles an hour. I'm heavy and all that. Why bother to even chain up if it's gonna be from all the way from Donner Path to the other side? I prefer waiting till chain control is up and all that, drive safely and everything, and then it's better off. And there's always those days that it snows, and if you know that it's gonna be snowing, just wait. Just tell your driver leader, I don't feel safe driving right now. It's snowing. My app says that it's snowing. And then other drivers also, they're sending in their macros 22. So it's not like dispatch doesn't know that there's bad weather and all of that. But make sure you're honest to yourself. If you don't feel safe, don't do it. Practice chaining up just to make sure that you have it there to get yourself out of a bad situation. Like there was one time I was driving on a 97, and there was a lot of ice going up a hill. I was gonna stay at the rest area right past the hill, so I had to chain up to just make it. But and it was just like 10 miles, but never drive more than it's necessary just to make it to a safe area. Honestly, don't keep driving if it's bad weather and you're on a low. Just wait. It's always better to wait till you're safe. Because don't forget that you're not the only driver out there, and there are actually other reckless drivers who don't care, who they're just very, like, keep pushing it a lot. So make sure that you do what's safe. Make sure that you have the good working equipment, the right equipment. Make sure you check all of your chains. Make sure you check all of the tires, obviously all of your lights. Winter months, the best time to start driving, it's anywhere between 8 a.m. to like 7 p.m. Around that time. I know it's harder to find truck stops that have available spots and all of that, but sometimes you have to do what's safer. And if you do plan to drive during the nighttime, make sure that where you're gonna end for the day, that rest area, or that you have, just make sure that you have safe havens along the way. Like, for example, like if you're gonna be driving on like highways like the 395, like the 95, 93, the 6 highways that are very small, those don't really have rest areas along the way. They don't have a lot of truck stops along the way. So for those, you might have to prefer, or might want to stop before entering those kind of highways, and tackle them when there's a lot of visibility during daytime. Because if you tackle those during nighttime, like anywhere between 9 p.m. to like, let's say 1 a.m., there's a lot of heavy snow, a lot of fog, you can't see what's going on. So you want to put yourself into that situation. Another thing, make sure you have extra food with you. Have extra food, extra water, You know, make sure you have something to make your food, like a microwave, an air fryer, maybe a slow cooker, something, you know, because sometimes you will have to stay in certain places for more than one day, like 2 days. Like I've stayed at Love's they only have Carl's Jr. and you know, like just that every single day. No. Just make sure you get some food that you might like, that you're gonna be able to like cook easily on your truck, and carry extra, you know, dishes and stuff, extra blankets. You know, make sure you check your AC, your heater, your bunk heater, your defroster. Make sure you check that all of those are up and running properly before the winter hits, because once it does, last year, what was it? Yeah, I think it was last year, my truck broke down, or I think either that or they took my truck, I don't remember. But I didn't have my truck. They gave me a loaner truck. I checked everything. And since it was like around August, it was still very hot. And, you know, I took my truck like that. And I totally forgot about it. I went to Grandview to make a delivery. And one of those nights, I had to stay by Lupine. And I stay there, and that area, once it starts to get very cold, right there it gets up to like 10 degrees. It gets very cold. That day I stayed right there. I totally forgot that I wasn't I didn't check my bunk heater, and that night it was so cold, and my bunk heater was not working. When I'm telling you, like, I was mad. Like I was glad that I was gonna stay there just for that one night, but when I'm telling you, I was like dead ass cold, and my truck was not throwing any hot air or anything. Like, my truck was messed up, because actually it wasn't my truck, it was a loaner truck. So I'm telling you, I was pissed, and that shit right there got me sick for 2 weeks. I woke up with sore throat, like headaches and everything. Like, it was that cold, and I was like, that's stupid for not checking that out. And I've been on that situation, so I'm telling you guys, make sure you check your truck bunk heater, the AC system, that everything is working properly. Make sure that if you have to get into a loaner truck, you check those things. Make sure you're checking everything. For the winter month, nothing should be bad. There shouldn't be any air leaks, no leaks of any kind. Make sure that you always leave the red valve pushed in, so that the air is circulating, so that your airlines don't get frozen, you know, and, you know, your brakes are working properly. Make sure every single time you start, you check the weather and all of that. Every single time you're gonna be driving, check the weather. If it's gonna be snowing, if it's gonna be bad. On the Point app, when you go to loads and you go into your load assignment, there is the option to choose weather. If you go there and you do that, it's very useful, because then you're able to see, you know, if it's gonna be snowing or raining along the way, which is pretty useful. But also use any weather map that you're in, any weather channel, anything that will help you know what kind of weather is gonna be along your path where you're gonna be driving. Make sure you check that out, because if you don't want to find yourself driving on areas that is gonna be super icy. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and comment down below on any video ideas, or, you know, any, you know, tips you want to give to those new solo drivers that will be starting soon with Swift.